guys, Peter here. I am bringing you another Brawlmachine Battle report. This time it's Garryth with his post-CID updates. Sorry, Garryth1, just to be clear, against Shawn, one of my viewers, and we finally managed to get our match. Shawn is bringing with him the Wanderer from the Grymkin. So I won't ramble, let's move on to the lists. I'm bringing with me Garryth1 with the Shadows of Retribution Team Force. Do note I'm using Conflict Chamber for the army list setup, but the points for Conflict Chamber hasn't updated. On War Room it's much different, but I think the overall pointage for both versions right now for Garryth is the same. So I'll walk through the list. I have Garryth1 in his battle group. I have a Banshee, a Chimera, and a Moros. The rest of this army is composed of Scythe, a minimum unit of Mage Hunter Infiltrators, and a Spears of Scyrah. Shawn is bringing with his Wanderer the Bump in the Night Team Force. His battle group consists of the Wanderer, a Clockatrice, a Skin and Bones. The rest of his army is composed of a unit of Cask Imps, a Grave Ghoul, a maximum unit of Dreadrots, Madcaps, and Isaiah the Dread Harvester. Again, note that at this point when I'm recording this video, the Dread Harvester, Isaiah the Dread Harvester hasn't been added to Conflict Chamber yet. So please take note of that. I think War Room has a much more accurate list. So yeah, let's move on to deployment and scenario. We are running the Orbit scenario from the Brawlmachine version 1 rulebook. The table is set up with a rubble, forest, rough terrain on the top half of the board, a forest and a wall on the rectangular zone on the left, a forest and a wall in the center of the board, and a forest, a house on the circle zone with a house capping off the right half of the board. I win to roll to choose sides or play first and choose the top deployment zone, so Shawn plays first. He deploys with the Clockatrice and Skin and Bones flanking the Wanderer on the left side of his deployment zone. The Dread Ghoul is at the center of the board with a full unit of Dreadrots and Isaiah covering the right flank. For Shawn's AD, he has the Cask Imps and the Madcaps pushing the center, close to the flank. For my deployment, I have Garryth, the Banshee, and Moros at the center, with the minimum unit of Mage Hunter Infiltrators at my right, supported by the Chimera. Finally, I have the Spears of Scyrah and Scythe capping off the left flank. Shawn starts off the game by running his Dread Ghoul to the center of the board, next to the wall, followed by the two Cask Imps, which incidentally blow up, granting him a free corpse token. The Madcaps and Dreadrots then run up to the center between the flag and the house. Isaiah runs to the right-hand side of the field, threatening the circle zone. The Wanderer and the two heavies push to the center of the board, right beside the Dread Ghoul. Shawn ends his turn by placing his markers, one on the left-hand side of the forest, another in front of the central wall, and the last marker behind the central wall. Finally, he spawns a Cask Imp from the Madcap close to the circle zone. I start my turn with Apparition on the Chimera, moving him 2 inches closer in front of the what they call that, rectangular rough terrain. I then activate Scythe, running her close to the center flag, avoiding the spray threat from the Clockatrice. I do the same with the Spears of Scyrah, except running them behind the forest, again keeping note of the sprays from the Clockatrice. I then activate the Banshee and run him off the board, making out the Clockatrice. I follow up with Garryth and advance him next to Scythe. I then cast Mirage on Garryth and Perseverance on the Banshee. I then run up Moros to the board to the left. I run Moros up the board on the left-hand forest, threatening the zone and again baiting a response from Shawn's heavies. Finally, I run the Chimera between the rough terrain and the woods to act as a supporting arc node, with the Mage Hunter Infiltrators following closely to threaten the charges on the Dreadrots. Shawn's turn 2 starts with the Wanderer teleporting up to the central marker in front of the wall. He then activates the Dread Ghoul and runs him behind the woods, supported by the Madcaps. Following closely behind are the newly spawned Cask Imp, serving as a blocker for my Chimera. His Dreadrots then push the circle zone, threatening to cap them. He's placed them right behind the woods, so I don't actually have a good charge lane, as they are not in my line of sight. He then moves the Skin and Bones and runs him behind the woods on the rectangular zone, followed up by a Clockatrice right after it casts Time Lock on itself. The Wanderer then moves up the woods and hits the Chimera with Beacon and Flare. Isaiah then capitalizes on that and charges the Chimera, dealing a huge chunk of damage. I think Shawn manages to take out the Cortex on the Chimera, which sucks for me. So he then ends his turn by placing 2 markers as roadblocks in front of my threats, one on the woods, one outside of it, and then uses the last marker as a retreat point behind his lines. My turn 2 begins and I immediately see an assassination run. I know this is a very huge gamble, but I'm running a newly improved Garryth, and he is the assassination caster for red, so I can't bear not to attempt it. So I begin my assassination run with Apparition from Mirage, moving Garryth up closer, and then opt to let Mirage expire along with the Perseverance on the Banshee, bringing me up to 6 focus. At this point, I take a few minutes to decide whether or not I allocate focus on the Banshee, as I can potentially kill the Wanderer with 6 focus, but should I fail, I wouldn't have enough supporting troops to protect Garryth, and I opt to allocate 2 focus to the Banshee. So I finally start the run by starting with Sight, and I use the Tree Walker to try and shoot the Dread Ghoul, hoping to kill it, as the Corpse Token mechanic is a huge risk to my assassination run because he can force to make me reroll a hit or damage. I managed to hit the first multi-fire attack, but whiff on the second, which ruins my plans. I leave the Dread Ghoul at 4 life and 1 Corpse Token. I was hoping to kill it and possibly pick off the Madcaps to try and force sacrifice or any of his other Arcana. So then I activate Gary, I pop my feet and charge the Wanderer with all the risks, as I need to mention Shawn cast Starcross the previous turn, and it is active. I cannot dispel it because it's a round ability. So the Dread Ghoul is also, I know that he can make me reroll one of my attacks. So either way, I charge with Gary. I make my hits with boosted attack rolls, as hitting 9s or 11s, if I'm not mistaken, with Starcrossed is very difficult. So even with I have 4 dice, I drop the highest, I still manage to hit a lot of times. I bring down the Wanderer down to 4 life. My last attack would have hit, but that's when Shawn decides to use the Dread Ghoul's ability and forces me to reroll, making me miss that attack and leaving the Wanderer down to 4 life, which sucks. So I have Gary sadly repositioned back behind the woods. Sad that he didn't complete the assassination. I then activate the Banshee and charge the Wanderer, triggering a rogue. I still have the Wanderer within reach after he moves 2 inches away. So I then begin the attack. I boost my rolls, manage to hit, but with Starcrossed up, even hoping to hit, not managed to hit. Even with a boosted attack, try and get those 11s to hit. It's difficult. I completely miss, and then I repo the Banshee in front of Gary, hoping it's enough to protect him, acting as a wall, preventing charges, and hopefully being disengaged would have Moros be able to deal the finishing blow. So I then activate Moros, hoping his gun can finish off the Wanderer. I make the attack, boost the hit. I think I needed 11s to hit, and I managed to roll 3 6s. So I got the boxcar I needed to hit. However, I rolled terrible in the damage roll and leave the Wanderer down to 1. You didn't even need to transfer the damage. Oh god. So I spend the rest of my turn positioning my units for a comeback should I survive the next turn. I run the spears to threaten the skin and bones. I charge Ateshai to prevent an attack, or at least deter him from charging Garryth because of the 3 strikes. And lastly, I attack the cast him with the Chimera and kill him, triggering the sacrifice, bringing up the Wanderer back to full hit points, and I end my turn. Shawn sees turn 3 as its retaliatory assassination, and starts off by walking the Wanderer out of threat range. He then activates the Wanderer and tries to hit Gary with Beacon and Flare, but misses. He then activates the Clockatrice and tries to find a good assault/charge flame, and I point out that I didn't place the Banshee well enough, and that he could reach Gary by placing the Clockatrice on the Banshee's left side. Even with my feet up, I cannot prevent the Clockatrice's attack, as the feat only prevents Spending Fury, not forcing. So with a complete set of attacks, Shawn manages to win by assassination. And that's just how it goes. So let's move on to post-game. So Shawn and I had a nice discussion after this game. There were a lot of options and outcomes that the game could have had. Like if I hadn't allocated the focus on the Banshee, would I have had enough attacks to kill the Wanderer? Should I have not repoed out of engagement range, as my feat was still active and a 3 strike could have killed the Wanderer? If I tied him up better, maybe that could have happened. Looking at it now, maybe I could have activated Moros first before the Banshee, as if I hit with the paralysis gun, that would have brought the Wanderer's defense down to 5 and preventing him from moving. There were a lot of outcomes, but I wanted to keep safe. As you saw, the Clockatrice was an assassination vector. So with Ateshai, if ever, especially in all cases, I would have been left at 0 focus, as I needed to spend all my focus to try and kill the Wanderer. But yeah, that's why I love this game. Sometimes you have to commit and see what happens. You can play all your cards, you can think about the things that you could have done, but the dice will still determine what happens. I hope you like this Battlep. Please tell me down below what I could have done differently. Did we make mistakes in the rules? Do you want to be featured on the channel? Let's have a match. Please comment down below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe and bell icon so that you can